Well, as per your request, here comes another plant chores video. I am so excited that this is the type of video that you all want to see the most. I have gotten so many encouraging messages and reviews on the content that primarily surrounds plant chores. I am so excited and happy that you all enjoy watching it. I honestly wish that some of y'all would do it too so that I could sort of see, different ways to do the same thing and learn something as well. But I am so grateful for y'all just dropping me a line to just say how much you're enjoying it and even learn something. And it's so exciting for me. I really do enjoy making these videos. This is what I do the majority of the time when I plant focused and within the garden and just in general any little free time that I have, this is what I do, plant chores majority of the time. So buckle in, it's going to be fun again. To kick things off, we're going to start by examining this successfully pollinated inflow on my Anthurium vitirifolium. Now, this was either self-pollinated or naturally pollinated from lizards and other bugs that I saw traversing it during the female stage. I am not sure where the source of the pollen would have come from, but I am just excited to have gotten berries off this Anthurium vitirifolium. I got it from Gwen's Oasis. I will link her Instagram profile in the description. So I'm going to take you along to see what exactly I do when I get berries and hopefully I can do an update later on for you all with some successfully grown seedlings. So I'm going to just dive right in and show you all what exactly I do from berry to seedling, or well, from berry to just prop box for now. I started by placing all the berries onto a paper towel. What that does is it absorbs all the plant matter, all the wet plant matter, I should say, from the berry and just aids in the separation of the seed from the berry. So one berry usually gives one seed, but there are instances where a berry can give two seeds. In this batch, I got one berry that produces two seeds. I'll point it out for you. It should be not this one, this one. This was the only one that produced two seeds. So the research that I did surrounding anthurium germination, the majority of the research I would say was done on YouTube. I will post a couple links in the description in case you want to have a look at that, as well as I got a lot of information from the Welcome to the Jungle book from NSC Tropical. It is a time-consuming process. As you can see, you have to kind of go around to each berry individually, pop each one, and then sort of clean this teeny tiny seed. I'm now just grouping all of them together so that I could extract each seed. This is what is left after extraction. You should see all that clear, gooey plant matter still surrounding some of the seeds or just in the general area. I'm now going to remove each seed and place it in some water just to continue trying to get off as much wet plant matter as I can. Now, this is to ensure that there isn't rot when I place it in moss to begin germination. You don't want to have anything decaying while the seeds are trying to germinate. Now, just a point to note that dirt is on the outside of this dish, not on the inside. The inside is sterile, and I cover these seeds and leave them in water for 24 hours to hydrate as much as possible before I put them in moss. Now, the cover is to ensure that no predators eat the seeds or nothing falls into the water to contaminate the seeds to encourage rot. I then place the entire dish on the second to last shelf. So it's pretty low down on this plant shelf, so it receives shade, but it receives west-facing light in this spot. So I'm just trying to give the seeds the best chance possible. I saw this method from Unplanned Parenthood on YouTube. I will post a link to that video in the description. And basically, you just leave the seeds to soak for 24 hours or so until they plump. So this is the next day. or I came in to check the seeds, they did get a little darker, so I'm worried about rot at this point. And, I'm curious as to if any of the seeds have perished, but fortunately, they were all fine. They actually, I mean, the size change is negligible, but they did increase in size, as you can see here, compared to when I originally extracted them from the berries. They look like teeny tiny kidney beans, but at least you can see the hydration really has started. And I believe I could just go ahead and place them in a bed of moss now that I am leaving a little wetter than usual, only because I have it in a west facing spot and it is super hot right now. And I make sure that I fluff this moss to make sure there's enough aeration. What I'm about to do next is just place the seeds in that bed of moss. However, they seem to need another rinse over. As you could see, some plant matter still streaming from that seed. So I'm just going to place all of them in another dish of water, rinse them over again so that there's nothing streaming from the seed, and place them in the moss itself. So I'm just going to lay them out probably about 2 centimeters apart and just place them right back in the same location that the seeds were hydrating in. This is again receiving west facing light, but some shade from the plants above, and I just added a tag and kept it in that humidity dome. Just a point to note, my mother plant is placed on a shelf just behind the shelf that the seeds are on. So I'm placing the seeds in a spot to germinate that is not too different, while I'm hoping, from where the mother plant seems to be happy. I'm now going to water my plants using CalMag. I do this every other week for the ones that need watering, and I just do it as per the instructions, which is 1 teaspoon per gallon. The water tank that I'm using is a general spray can tank, which is 4 liters, a little more than a gallon, in that a gallon is 3.8 liters, but that dilution to me is negligible. So I just go ahead and add it to a watering can with a narrow spout for precision pouring and water the ones that need watering. Moving right along, I'm finally going to put my philodendron Bipennifolium Aurea on a pole, which means it has to get repotted. So I am cleaning out this pot. I just use dish soap or laundry detergent to rinse it out completely, make sure there's no remaining soil. I tend to reuse my pots once they're not broken. So I'm giving it a thorough rinse, ensuring that there's no leftover soil, and then I'm going to sanitize it using rubbing alcohol just to get rid of any pests and any other bacterial, I don't know, deposits that may be in the pot from previous use. And I'm going to just pot it right up into this one, which is about a 5 inch or 6 inch wide diameter pot. And I'm going a little bigger to ensure the pole fit. Pool. This is a better view of the size jump that I'm going to make with this plant. It is about 3 times the size, but bear in mind I'm going to have to fit a pole and give it enough room to, continue expanding its root system. So with the amount of aerial roots I'm seeing here, I don't foresee that I should have a problem, but I am contemplating at this point if to put a layer of lacquer to the bottom just for additional drainage. But I went against it, as you'll see shortly, and I just placed a layer of Utopia's premium aroid mix in there because I figured, the plant has developed a good enough root system and that mix is quite airy already. So I'm just going to pot it right up in that size pot. And I haven't touched or messed with the roots at all before placing it in. My next step is to remove the stake and clip that I had it originally growing on. I tend to not put my plants on a pole immediately. Maybe I should do it immediately so that they could actually start rooting from the onset. But I kind of just stake these small plants and clip it to promote aerials still so that it still feels supported by the stake. And once I see a significant amount of aerials, then I put it on a pole. Let me know what you all do. But I ensure that the aerials are touching the pool, and the ones that are lower down, I direct them into the soil so they can start rooting as well and turn into soil roots. I secure it using a Velcro strap, as you can see, leaning the plant towards the pool just to let it know again it now has some secured support to start rooting into the pool and into the soil. This is what it looks like in the end. I did add quite a thick layer of moss to the top. This will encourage root development further from those areas. And what I do is well, besides watering it here using Great White, I only water this plant when I see that the moss on top is completely dry. So that's how I manage the watering with this setup when I'm jumping sizes to 3 times the original size it was in. What I also always try to do is the plant was originally on the shelf where you saw my hand. What I did is I placed it very close to its original location so it doesn't have much adjusting to do with respect to light and humidity. So now it has room to climb, and I just sort of moved it maybe 1 foot or a foot and a half diagonally from where it originally was. I then decided to tackle my variegated Amydrium. I got it from SJ's, and as you could see, that long aerial could be potted into soil now and continue rooting for the plant. This one matured really quickly for me because I put it on a pole immediately. It is well fenestrated, and the variegation is quite subtle, but it is really beautiful in person. I can't really, you know, capture it so well in this video, but it is more intense and real, and it is such an easy plant to grow. If you're thinking about getting one, my top recommendation is just to put it on a pole immediately and let it do its thing. Now it has outgrown the pole probably by a foot. I'm going to give it a 3 foot pole extension. I got it from Utopia, and I just used zip ties to fasten it, and that seems to do the job for me. I've been doing this method for years, and it has never failed me. Now what I want to do is get this long aerial wrapped around the pole a couple times just to stabilize it, and bury it in soil so that it will continue to root into the soil, and again just create a denser root network for the plant overall. So I'll just top that up with some Utopia Aroid mix. I'm not repotting this one because the majority of the roots are in the pool. So this is it with the extension. I put it right back in its original location. And this should last me about 6 months, I believe. And now I should not have big gaps between the nodes or leafless nodes. Once you put it on a pole, you should have great results or leaf after leaf growth, and that is my ultimate goal with Amydriums. Now I am tempted to give it a chop and start another vine on this pole. Let me know if you think I should do that, or if you find the growth pattern is good already. At this point, I took a little break at planty stuff and decided to wash out some of my containers, vessels. That is a prop box that I got from Amazon. I'll put the link for it in the description. It really has served me over the years in terms of successfully propagating plants. This is just a basin filled with water and dish soap that I had just sitting there so that when I am ready to rinse them out, it got a good soak before, so it just saves me time in terms of cleaning them out. I really do believe in keeping everything clean so that when I do have to pot up or something unexpected happens, my vessels are ready to go. As usual, my final step is to sanitize everything using rubbing alcohol. So I just spray that in, and I would leave it to air dry as I'm done, and I love doing this. It's such a quick win in that I have everything clean and ready to go, so it's just a grab and go situation when I have stuff to do. Now I want to tackle my potting station that needs a bit of neatening up. It has gotten really cluttered in the back here with all that scaffolding storing there now. So, just to ensure that I have a smooth chores session, I want to just, declutter that station so that, you know, I could have some order in my mind as well. So I'm filling back this basin with soap, and I'm going to just add vessels to clean. Right, so we're back in the game now. Everything is cleared down and decluttered. This is just some leftover lacquer that I have to sanitize still from since the last potting station, but at least I could think clearly now. I have more space and we're ready to go again. Now I'm going to tackle this prop box that is not too overgrown, but it can do with a refresh. It's mainly alocasias in here, and I use a humidity dome to house them or to prop them. I got this from Aroids, and as you can see, some of them are ready to be potted up. So I'm just going to take you along to see exactly what I do. I also have to clean this container. This is a better view of the plants in the prop box where you can actually see the roots. Some of them are really well rooted without even a second leaf being there, and others do have a second leaf like this alocasia dragon's breath. Usually that's my indicator that they're ready to be potted up, that second leaf. However, if the root system looks pretty dense and they only have one leaf, I'll go ahead and do that. For example, this black velvet, and I believe that's a Frydek, alocasia Frydek. These are some Saltipicana, and this is my Syndapsis silver lady. Those actually have new leaves as well. This is my Monstera Peru, and something died here. I have to remember what was in that vessel. And lastly, I have a Synapsis dark form in the corner there. In preparation to repot them, they're going to go right back in lacquer. I'm going to rinse a fresh batch of lacquer to ensure that there is no dust deposits in my solution when I water it. So I just thoroughly rinse it out. It also starts the hydration for the lacquer one time, as it is a clay ball and it will absorb moisture to transfer to the plant. So I got some clear vessels as well, which are just cups that I'm recycling. So I have everything that I need. You're probably wondering why I'm potting up here. It's because the time in which that I went to that location, it was probably like a little after midday, and it was just too hot to pot at my potting station. So I just relocated so that I could still get my chores done. So what I do is I just fill lacquer into the cups halfway up. This is a shot of all of them ready to go, and then I just remove this nursery container that you could see the roots falling out of, bring it into my workstation or my work area. What I'm doing here is gently removing what I can without breaking the roots. You could see how dense this root system is. I used the Super Thrive, and I sort of fan the roots or spread them apart before I pot them up. And I just top it up with lacquer after that, where you can see the roots clearly midway through. Next, I'm going to pot up this alocasia dragon's breath. The roots look pretty great. Even though it only has one leaf, I'm still going to pot it up, ensuring that the roots are midway through. You'll see why I position it in that location shortly. So that would be all the alocasias that was in that propagating system, that system there. So I just cleaned that out, and I'm going to fill it back to add the corms that did not sprout back to the propagating dome. So I'm just filling this back with fresh lacquer. These are the corms that did not sprout. I'm going to give those a clean. Here they are all cleaned, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but there is a little green tip on the top of the corm. That indicates the top, and that is the tail at the base. So I just place the corm on top of the lacquer, just like that, and I set all the rest similarly. I then get my great white water and water these plants in so that the water line is just below the root zone. I never want the roots to sit in water. The humidity then does the work for me in terms of hydrating the plant. Next, I moved on to my black velvet, and I just did the same as I did with the dragon's breath for these. This was also an alocasia, but it did not make it. This is the corm that it would have originally grown from. I believe it's my alocasia reversa. It is completely hollow and mushy, so I'm just going to toss that out. Now I am going to deal with my Celtipicana props. These tend to shoot before they root. They need a clean up as well. They are quite covered in powdery mildew. It looks like only one has rooted. I'm just going to place them there to clean them down. I don't know if you notice, you'll see those with leaves but no roots. That's what I mean by they shoot before they root. These were all wet stick props. Those didn't make it, so I'm just going to toss them out and clean that container. Here's a closer look at this one in particular that has 2 leaves with no roots, and the main stem has completely rotted off. So it has grown from that microscopic node, and this is why I can't toss wet sticks out. In general, you just never know what they're going to do. The rooted one, I'm just going to add back to my mother plant that was eaten by grasshoppers. I'm hoping to create a full pot again sometime. This is my cora. I just make a hole with that, like that, and add the rooted cutting right in there. Hopefully this will grow for me and I can have a nice full pot again. I'm so happy I found roots finally in my Philodendron glorious props, so I'm going to get these out of here and have a better look. Here they are, well rooted it seems. Tangled to say the least. I'm just going to set the ones that are rooted aside. These also tend to shoot before they root, as you can see here. The ones that haven't rooted, I'm just going to set them back up in the prop box. I don't know if you remember in my last video, but I treated this for green powdery mildew, and you can see how effective it was because the perlite has remained quite white with no deposits. Here it is all set back up, the ones that have not rooted. Those are going to be potted. Here they are all potted. My next step is to water them in using great white water, as you see here. And as usual, I water until the water comes out the bottom. I tend to drench these as they were originally growing in quite humid conditions with water in the vessel. So from the onset or from the first watering, I give it a good soak. Also, I want to make sure there's enough myco in the soil to start that efficient nutrient uptake from as early as possible. Now I'm going to tackle my Syndapsis Silver Lady props. These have rooted really well as well. I ran out of pots at this point, so I pulled out my mesh pots that I use for propping using moss. But as you can see here, it does not retain the soil very well, so I had to sort of create a little jig to use them. I just got out one of these plant bags, potting bags, and cut it down to size to fit inside the mesh pot, just to contain the soil a little better. By the way, in one of my videos, I believe it was my second one, I have about 70 of these plant bags. I really don't like using them, so if you want them, please comment free and I'll be happy to give them to you. Usually I put 2 of these cuttings in one pot, as you see here. And I'm just going to water them in as I did the rest. Here they are all done. Next, I'm taking out my Monstera Peru. I just have one cutting. It is well rooted with that long root. I think it has 2 roots. I'm just going to add it to this pot to continue to try and fill it out. This is what it looks like in the end. Now I'm taking my Syndapsis dark form. I have one successful wet stick prop in here, and I'm going to do the same with this, just add it to an existing pot to continue filling it out. I eventually remembered what this was, and I am so sad. It's my variegated Hoya polyneura, or the polyneura broguet, however you want to say it, and it has completely dried up on me. As you can see here, those roots have deflated. I'm just going to move on to cleaning up my prop box and my propping area to continue. While these are drying, let's go corm picking. So I look for my mature alocasias and check to see if they have any corms ready to be harvested. My green shield always has, as you can see here. Let's get a better view and tackle it from this side. Here they are up close. They are so huge. They are the size of hazelnuts, I would say. I just gently twist and pull to ensure I don't uproot the mother plant. And I just pick them as you see. I'm going to check I was able to get 4 here, and I'm going to check my Alocasia Dragon's Breath next. There's one in front here. And there's another to the back. I'm going to set up my prop tray with lacquer completely, like that, and get these ready for placement. This was the long tail I was mentioning before. That is how the corm gets its nutrition from the mother plant. Because I'm going to be feeding it now, I don't need that long tail, so I just snap that off and place them on top of the lacquer as you see there. I'm going to treat this tray for some copper fungicide to make sure it doesn't transfer to these new corms or new props, and add the tray back to the top of my shelving here. This receives west facing light, but it's shaded under a very large chimet tree. I paused here to take a look at some gorgeous leaves, and this is just where I placed the Dragon's Breath props now. This is my corm tree or my corm farm that's ready to be domed. I'm just going to add it to the tray first, followed by my Monstera saltipicana props and everything else. I'm so happy the tray is cleaned and everything is organized again. I'm going to fill my corm tray with plain water. I fill it until just the base of the corm sits in water, just like that. You'll see one to the back that is a little too submerged. I'm going to pick that up shortly and turn it so that, again, just the base touches the lacquer. I find when they sit in too much water, they rot within days. My last step is to just add the cover back. Well, prior to this, I placed 1 inch of water in that tray to ensure that I always have at least 80% humidity in there, and those are good to go for about a month. Now I'm going to fertilize my poles using TPS1 fertilizer as per the instructions. I just add it to my spray tank there and pull out my wireless hose. I changed the spray head to the shower setting or the shower applicator instead of the fanned one that I used when I was spraying for pest. And I thoroughly drenched the poles from top to bottom. This, I find, speeds up the growth and allows for size jumps a lot quicker. Finally, I got some moss plants from Utopia. I have been sticking with ordering these. I got them for these three little guys, my Philodendron Red Anderson and my two melanoprops. These I want to place on pools right away, as in my experience they prefer to be on a pole right away, especially as their roots are so fine. So I just ensure that I secure that root that was jutting out, making sure I didn't sever it when I added the pole for my Red Anderson. And I'm noticing here that my melano stem is too close to the pot, so I'm going to have to pot this one up completely. Well, repot it is what I mean. Here it is repotted with the plank in place, and I just have that bit of the stem touching the plank, as you see here, to encourage roots to grow onto the support. This one, however, looks infested with spider mites, so I am going to give this one a good wipe down using this mixed solution of alcohol, dish soap and water. I actually have more information on my pest treatments on my Instagram profile that I would link. So I wipe each leaf with this solution using a sponge. I wait for it to dry thoroughly, and then I spray using Safer's End-All. I get this at Home and Garden. I will link them in the description. And I just spray the leaves, the surface of the soil, and the pot. This is what they look like in the end. Now these little plants I placed on a plank, a moss plank specifically from Uli, because I find that in my experience with them, the roots are very fine and they actually prefer to be on moss as opposed to coco coir. And lastly, I placed them very close to where they were originally growing, as you saw on the shelf there, just in front. This wraps up this video. I am just showing you all this other little cutie that came to visit. Once you have a garden, you can always expect these beautiful surprises, and I just want to share that with you guys to wrap up. Before I let you guys go, I just wanted to mention that I know in the beginning of this video, when I was potting up my Bipennifolium Aurea, I mentioned that I usually stake small plants and not put them on a pole immediately, and that I wait to see aerial roots before I do that. In this case, with these last three that I potted up, the Philodendron Red Anderson and the Melanos, I put those on poles immediately because my experience with them has led me to understand that those plants prefer to root immediately into their whatever support I choose, whether it's a plank or a pole. In this case, I chose the planks. They like to root into them immediately. I get faster growth and the leaves size up a lot faster for me. So that was why I chose in that case to put the planks for them at that size or that stage in their growth cycle. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed it and see you next week.